Right, we're recording.
All right, everybody, welcome. We'll go ahead and get started. We were just talking about the town hall overview. It seems like it went really, really well. Any other feedback from participants? Positive, negative, places we think we might improve?
This is not about yesterday's meeting specifically, but Jennifer had made a suggestion earlier that I thought was good, which is that we try to tie the timing of the town hall to, I think we were talking about in the TAC having the working groups provide, updates to the TAC and we thought we might do that quarterly and maybe just ahead of the next town hall. I don't know if it's worth spending a minute in this meeting to talk about kind of what our schedule for that should be, or maybe we open an issue if we don't have one already and have people participate in that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I'd like to get working groups providing updates of the TAC on a more regular basis. Yeah, and if we can parlay that into the actual town hall, I think that would be super helpful. So if we can get on sort of a quarterly rhythm with them, that would be useful. What do other people think?
I think what we were thinking initially with that and what I was proposing is that when you mentioned, Ryan, a quarterly rhythm, we identify in advance, like, the third Tuesday of every quarter at 3 p.m. or whatever we decide on a recurrent basis. Find a few of those deadlines, one for town hall content and then one for the town hall itself. And then I think we had talked about, and I'm not sure where we landed with it, but we had talked about having the working groups come and present to the TAC or to speak to the TAC on a quarterly basis. So that might be something we could revisit today as well if we were interested in doing that and how that would work.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Curious what other people think, but yeah, that I would absolutely love to have. We've got Crobe here today.
Do we want to take a minute and do that now, or do we want to make it maybe an agenda? I don't know how it wasn't on the agenda, so maybe we can add it later in the agenda, or how do you, or do it on another day. But I think it's a good discussion.
To do the update itself, or to just discuss how we want to do this?
Discuss the schedule.
Oh yeah. I don't have a really heavy agenda today, so I'm happy to continue this particular topic, and then we can move on to the next part.
Okay, so let me lay out. So there are a few things. I'm gonna hop in here. So there are a few things that we want to do on a quarterly basis. There's we want to send a newsletter. So we used to have this concept that we would send have a press release quarterly, and we're moving away from that based on direction from our PR folks. They would like us to just think about press releases as when we have, big meaty announcements, and then we do a press release around that. Otherwise, kind of general ongoing updates we want to do in a newsletter. So we're thinking a quarterly newsletter, and then quarterly town hall. And then, there's also a sort of, call it TAC review.
Is the newsletter just like a blog post, or is that something?
Yes, it's
separate?
so it's a blog post, and then we'll do it as a blog post, and then we'll also send email,
Okay.
referencing the blog post, and we'll do a tweet referencing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. So I think probably the way that we want to do it, just thinking timing, is we might want to have the TAC review first, and then that feeds into the newsletter, and then the town hall comes after, right around the time of the newsletter. And we have been doing the press releases, and we did the last newsletter at the the last week of our quarter. So
What are you envisioning for the TAC review? Is this a meeting and presentation in the TAC? Some kind of email update that we review?
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I'm just putting it there because there had been discussion about some sort of cadence for the TAC to review. So that's
is that to review like the work groups or like to
work
get
group
updates or
updates.
okay? Because
I don't know if you want to do that. Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, so yeah, using this generic TAC review term to interpret it my way, it would be
Okay, sure. Say it your way and I'll write it.
Yeah, since it's unclear, because we'll just make this up as we go.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, getting working group updates I think would be good, and then somehow formalizing that into the newsletter, along with whatever the working group updates are, plus whatever the TAC is currently working on, right? So the updates that we have been putting into that town hall meeting could go into the newsletter as well as kind of pull that all together and put it in one thing. But I think the working group updates are really the important piece there.
What is it, April? Is it August?
Yeah, like yesterday in the town hall, it came up that I thought was really interesting was that the notion of having the reproducible builds as a separate working group, and that'd be something that we could discuss and put in the newsletter. That would be interesting to people, I think.
What kind of, so we haven't been having the TAC, we've been reviewing content for newsletter and town hall in the GB planning meeting, which has some TAC members added. Do we want to have the sort of the TAC formally approved content for newsletters in town hall?
I think, I don't know that we necessarily need to make it formal, like formal approval, but it would be good, I think, to share it, a preview with the TAC so that, we can provide input, just like we do with blog posts in general, right? There's sort of that, I think the TAC members should have an opportunity to take a look and make sure everything's accurate, but I don't think we'd necessarily have to wait for the TAC to sign off, right? Just give an opportunity to make corrections if necessary, but.
Okay, so we could come up with a schedule, something like, so WG TAC provide content for newsletter, and that could be that that really needs to happen at least 2 weeks. So end of second 1 week ahead of newsletter. Then WG TAC GB review content ahead of newsletter. And then the newsletter comes out the last week of the quarter, and then we could plan on the town hall meeting being the first week of the next quarter. Something like that.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Only concerns?
All right, ship it.
Okay. Yeah, we can plan on that for our next one. Maybe tweak it if anything comes to it as before then. But
yeah, at bare minimum, I think it's a good start. So we can adjust if we need to, but I think it's good.
Okay.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thank you. Well, since you're already here and talking, do you want to roll into the intellectual property policy discussion?
Yeah. Well, I guess we can kind of do governing board update. So there are two things. Well, Jennifer's going to talk about the offsite, so that's one thing. The other two things that I could mention here. One, just FYI, we're working on the scope of our budget committee. And so we've got an upcoming amendment to our charter to add in the budget committee. I don't have those right handy to share the actual content of them with you. So, if somebody's interested, let me know and I can share that out. But it's not essentially our budget committee will be similar to what a lot of other foundation budget committees are like. That they'll handle coming up with the budget and sending it to the board for approval, and then we also said that they would handle management of any funding. Maybe I'm not sure if I'm saying that the right way. So if there are funding requests from the TAC to the governing board, then the budget committee would handle disbursement of those funds as appropriate. So that's one piece. The other thing that's the other addendum to the charter that we're looking at is an intellectual property policy, and in that we're defining all of the allowed software code licenses and also licenses for documentation and data. And then the process will be any one of our technical initiatives can choose from any of the specified allowed licenses. And then if they want something outside of that, then it takes a governing board approval for that. So those are both coming along. We can share the full text of those. They're both are being reviewed, and in some cases they're being reviewed by the attorneys of members of the governing board. And if anyone wants more details ahead of time, I can share the document with you. Otherwise, I expect the governing board will vote on those at our next meeting, which is March 4th. If all of the governing board members are ready to vote, if there's still outstanding questions, we'll do it a little after that, but they're coming along.
Have there been any updates to the licensing, or is it still like what we've been talking about as far as Apache 2 and MIT and Creative Commons for the other stuff?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have brought that up before this meeting. Yeah, so we were, the way it's framed is Apache 2, MIT, Creative Commons. I think it might even be broader so that it's any approved OSI license.
No, but
no?
what
Okay,
it
go
says
ahead.
is that for specs, there's another license that's often used, and for databases, there's another license that's often used.
Okay.
So
Thanks,
basically, MIT and Apache for code, CC BY for documentation, and then there's a spec license and a database license, and the governing board can approve whatever else.
Cool. All right, that makes sense.
That's what I got.
Cool. Jennifer, do you want to talk about the governing board offsite?
Yeah, thank you. So the governing board, one of the things that we've been doing is trying to streamline our decision making, make it as clear as possible across the OpenSSF, and basically just document all of those things and figure them out. Because I guess we've had some challenges from time to time around where a decision is made and how. So obviously figuring out that stuff, putting it all on the table, sorting it and resolving it and documenting those findings is a worthwhile exercise. So the week before last, we had 2 sessions. They were each 2 hours long for members of the governing board. And basically I led us through an exercise where we outlined all of the major and minor sometimes decisions that we foresee OpenSSF needing to make as a functioning organization. So things we've either encountered or we expect to encounter in the future. We tried to brainstorm as many of those as we could, and we came up with a huge number of them, all the way from big things like charter changes to relatively small things like writing and posting a tweet. And we categorized those decisions together in a pretty consensus-driven model with a fair bit of discussion and thought into some preliminary categories. So they were governing board and its subcommittees, the TAC, the individual working groups, and other. And other could be like Linux Foundation or whatever. So we went through all these decisions. We discussed where we thought that they fell, and we've spent a couple of sessions on that, but I think we've resolved a number of major open questions that we've had for a long time that are beginning to arise in different areas of governance at OpenSSF. So we need one more session to finish that, which I believe we will be scheduling for probably sometime next week, pending availability. And what we're going to do in that final session is continue to take the items from governing board and categorize them into governing board decisions or subcommittee decisions, and how those things interact and how those decisions are made. So I think we're just taking like a very engineers sort of approach to this, in carving it up very precisely, in articulating that, and in agreeing on efficient decision-making mechanisms. So I think it'll be a game changer for us, just in terms of how decisions are made across this organization. I think it's going to enable us to get a lot more done a lot faster. And it's been, I think, a really good team building exercise in the GB, because we're forcibly making ourselves deal with issues that may arise in the future, and dealing with them proactively from like a really calm perspective and thinking about the trade-offs. So overall, I think it's gone really, really well. But of course, part of this whole thing is making sure that it makes sense for all of the stakeholders. So as we work through these lists, what we will be bringing back to the TAC, probably by the next TAC meeting, will be the things that we feel fall within the scope of the TAC, and then we'll just want to make sure with the TAC that that all feels right, that the TAC doesn't feel that anything is missing or miscategorized. So we'll seek to make sure that all parties in both the governing board and the TAC are comfortable with that, but we've basically kept it to the GB to do this initial card sorting exercise. So that's where we're at. We intend to finish probably sometime next week. It might be early the week after if scheduling is difficult, and then we'll bring that stuff back to this group. And from there, we'll have a very clear, well-documented way of making all kinds of decisions in this organization really efficiently, which I think will really accelerate what we're doing. So if anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise, you can expect in a future TAC meeting, probably the next one, an update to come as to where things landed with GB. And we will bring with us the documentation, of course, on all of those things.
Very cool. Thank you, Jennifer. Any questions for Jennifer? For anybody? Awesome. All right. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the update on that. So one thing I forgot to put on the agenda here was there was an email thread. I apologize, I forget who it was through, but regarding the election process that we had discussed last time. I know I had said that I would get that into a markdown file and get it posted up on the repo. I have to apologize. I've had virtually no time to work on OpenSSF the past 2 weeks. But the good news is this week is looking great. And so I'm planning on doing that today. And then I'll send that out. So I think we've got that finalized and finished. And then in that email thread, I think it was either Lindsay or Carly, I forget, but they mentioned that we needed to have an official vote. And so I plan on, unless somebody has different opinions, but once we put it in the markdown, using our usual quote voting process by approving the PR. So if anybody has thoughts otherwise, let me know, but otherwise that'll be the plan going forward. So hopefully I'll get that published up today.
Just one other thing to mention on that. So we did, from the governing board, we did invite Ryan to attend our next governing board meeting to give us an update on the election process. So we want to get have governing board eyes on that, because it has the component of it, which is that the governing board elects some members also. so that'll be, so Ryan will attend our next meeting on October, or not October, March 4th, to share the current status with us.
Yeah, that sounds good. And that was on March 4th, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have the actual meeting invite for that. I might, but I don't think I do.
Forward it to you, Ryan.
Oh, thanks, Lindsay.
All right. So then the next big thing that I had that we've kind of been sitting on for a while is the working group charter reviews. So there's a couple of things there. First off, I don't think that we've got for most working groups in a state to where we can actually do a charter review with them. So since we do have a couple of working group leads with us today, I wanted to kind of get some generalized feedback about what do you guys think would be the right way to start driving that to get working groups ready. I don't want it to turn into this like painful overhead process that everybody's got to go through, but at the same time, we do kind of need to get it done. So I guess looking to Dan and Krob and let's see if there's anybody else on this call. And Jennifer helps lead some things as well. So if, what are you guys' thoughts on how we should best go about that? We could throw the template over the wall and then say, schedule you a time to come do the review, or would you like something a little less formal that we all kind of fill out together since it's the first time? Definitely open to suggestions. I just want it to be effective and efficient for everyone.
I thought the two groups I'm involved with had appropriately followed the template. Maybe we send out a message to each of the working group leads stating we're going to be reviewing this and try to find a time where the appropriate parties can get on a call and kind of look at what's there and compare to the template.
I think we're overloading terms here. I think there's two different templates that people could be referring to. There's the charter.md, which I don't think anyone has followed because it doesn't quite make sense. It expects working groups to elect technical steering committees and all sorts of heavyweight things. And then there's also just like the readme.md, which says this is what we're hoping to do, and everyone has followed that one. So when we say review charters, which one are you referring to, Ryan?
Well, it's sort of both. So we tried to kill the charter MD in a sense, right? That we were going to update that to make it a little less ridiculous for everybody, like forcing the election of members on these small working groups. But I thought we were going to review that with the, I think, was it the governing board that was doing that as part of that policy, the policy updates that they were doing, or did that kind of get dropped? I know it's been a while since we discussed this, and it's probably been almost 2 months now.
I think that there was the immediate concern was the IP policy, which I think is getting resolved, but then there's the rest of it. And I don't know how much we care about the rest of it. I think we're at a point where we can, once the IP policy part is figured out, we can easily review the readme.mds and understand what everyone is hoping to be doing. And then I don't know exactly how much the TAC wants to be opinionated and how working groups are structured and governed and that kind of thing. I think more imminent is just understanding what they all are hoping to do.
Yeah,
so reviewing the readme.mds.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. I think the main goal here is for us to just really see what everyone's doing, make sure there's not overlap, right? If there is, sort of coordinate them a little bit better. But yeah, I don't think we should be terribly opinionated about how they're run. We should let the working groups decide that amongst themselves. But
I thought, and Lindsay helped me remember, so I thought that there was some discussion with Scott Miller at the Linux Foundation about creating a simplified template. So there might still be a simplified charter template for technical initiatives. There might still be other things in that from the prior charter template that are relevant for groups. I'm not sure, but so maybe Lindsay, can you just remind me of the status?
First, the main charter needs to be approved. And then there is the option to do like a lighter weight technical charter if once that main charter is approved, we feel that we need something else. So that's an option for sure. But I think the main thing first is to do the main charter and see what that covers and gets us to, and then review the need for an additional lighter weight charter
Okay.
for technical initiatives. Yep.
Okay. So we'll, if that makes sense here, then we can wait until the governing board approves the addendum to the OpenSSF charter, and then come back to
Yep.
the question.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so we can go ahead and start the reviews then. And we can send out invites. I see that Crow mentioned, invite them. So yeah, we can go ahead and send out invites to this meeting. Just a sort of a background, like Crow and Dan, do you guys feel that inviting folks in the next 2 weeks is reasonable, or do people kind of need some prep time, like for any particular reason? Like we said, I think the readmes are ready to go. So
The readmes were a task from a couple months back, so I don't have a problem with that, and I'm glad to show up whenever. The
yeah,
charter, I think Ryan, you were the one that pushed that down to everybody. So again, any changes you want to make, let me know. I'm glad to update.
Yeah, we made the README sort of the priority, like Dan was mentioning, because the charter MD file was some template that got copied from somewhere. And then we realized that it was definitely heavy-handed for what our uses were. So we came up with the README approach. But I think we still have this need to have a more lightweight charter that's being created right now that Lindsay was just mentioning. So we can leverage that when it's appropriate. But I think in the meantime, it probably makes sense to go ahead and do the review with just the README if folks are comfortable with that. I see that you mentioned that that's partly why you showed up today. We've got time, so if we want to go ahead and do yours now, that I'm totally cool with that if folks are open to that.
I'm down with that unless we have a reason that we would want all of the working groups to be able to hear each other's, but if not, it might make sense to go forward today.
I actually would love to have all of the working groups hear each other's. I don't know, maybe it's not critical. It just feels like good. That's one of the things that's great about the TAC is it's an opportunity for cross-group sharing.
Yeah, that's the ideal. Absolutely. I know in the past we've definitely had a difficult time getting every lead to show up to this meeting. But we can certainly make that. We could try for that in the next TAC meeting and see how much representation we get. But at least then they have the opportunity. So that's totally fine with me.
I think to the point that we discussed earlier, having that one where we have them report on a quarterly basis is really going to help, because even if there's one and they have to plan like every 3 months to come to this meeting for an hour and we coordinate that well in advance, it'll be really great to have everyone all in the same place on a periodic basis.
Yeah,
So you're
definitely agree with that.
suggesting one meeting where everyone reports, or one meeting dedicated to each one?
My understanding is that we were thinking one meeting where everyone could hear each other's, but correct me if I've misunderstood that.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. I think a whole hour for a working group for a review would be a little overkill, not to mention that would be 12 weeks of
Yeah, that's what I'm
Mm.
worried about.
Yeah, I think if we give everybody like 10-ish minutes or so to just do an update, and I think in the beginning it'll probably be a little longer, and then once we get into the rhythm, it should be just kind of quicker updates.
So we still
So
have to do the initial reviews though to make everyone not incubating or whatever we called it.
Right. So what I'm saying,
Are we
yeah,
saying we
so-
would do all of that in 10 minutes for each working group?
yeah, so I think the review of the readmes or the charters or whatever we want to call these things is separate from this like newsletter update kind of thing. I think we need to get through these reviews first, and then we can use that as part of the update, if it works out that way. But I view those as separate things.
Right. So we're saying we're going to schedule a one-off deep dive into each working group soon to do the initial reviews.
Yeah, so I'd like at the next TAC meeting, if we can get good representation, we should do that in 2 weeks if possible, a month at the latest.
I think I'm still not understanding. So So let's just say Chrome is going to review the best practices working group next week
Mhm.
or in 2 weeks. Is that going to be everyone being reviewed in 2 weeks or just Chrome doing the best
No,
practices?
that's okay. We're going to try to get everyone as much as we can. Yeah. So if we can get everyone in 2 weeks, we'll do it then. If there's too many conflicts and a month out is when we can get it done, then we'll do it then. But I'd like to try to get as much as we can done sooner rather than later.
So then I think we still have Dan's question that is
I'm still
10 minutes. Is 10 minutes enough time to have everyone do a deep dive into their charter? So maybe you want to do it over 2 meetings and then each working group has 20 minutes.
And maybe in the spirit of time, we could collect them a few days in advance at least and have us all take a look in advance of the meeting.
So we do have the readmes. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's a good idea as well. I was just thinking like so Dan, you started saying deep dive. I wasn't anticipating like a deep dive. It was more like a review of the readmes. We wouldn't like get into too many details, but are you thinking that there would be more discussion down into the details of each working group that would necessitate more than 10 minutes?
I guess, yeah, we're supposed to do some kind of formal approval of each one. If we think we can do that in a quick skim and ask 1 or 2 questions and then a vote in 10 minutes, that's fine.
We can split it, do half and half, and then people that show up at each one that they're interested in can show up to each one. And then that way we have a little bit more time if we're worried about it. Certainly, if we can get through them, we will, right? But, I don't want to artificially force things through if we haven't had a proper discussion on it either.
So really, this agenda item is listed as working group charter reviews. So really what it is working group promotion from incubation to, I forget what our next level is. Is that right?
Yeah, but we've been calling it charter reviews from the beginning, but yeah, now the names have changed quite a bit. But yeah, that's essentially what it is. So maybe working group like formalization, review and formalization.
What did we decide the next step is beyond incubation?
That's a wonderful question. Let's see if I can find it here.
Active. What's the word, Dan? Settle on.
Okay.
Okay, so we can start scheduling these for the next TAC meeting and then the one after that if necessary. And then we can get that invite sent out to the working group leads. Does that seem like a reasonable plan for everyone?
I'm just trying to write it down as we're talking. So you're proposing review all 6 at next TAC meeting. If
I think we can put all 6 on the agenda, but certainly like I think we should be open to knowing that there's a good chance it's going to go to the next one as well to get through the remainder.
I think maybe to be respectful of people's time, if we try to schedule 3, I think we can maybe get through 3. I don't think we can get through 6.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
that feels good to me.
Agreed.
So which 3 would we want to do next time?
Crow, can we volunteer you for 2?
Sure.
Okay. Right.
There's a danger of showing up to these things.
And then I'll nominate Ryan in return for nominating Krob for the third one.
Well played.
Probe did not step back fast enough.
That's right.
So
What I get for having a hat.
Draws attention. Yeah.
is Ryan here to say that that's okay? Are we talking Ryan Ware? Or
No, I meant Ryan Haining. Sorry.
Oh, I assumed you meant Ryan Ware as well.
right.
No, this is your prize for nominating Krob for the first. You get nominated for the third.
But see, the joke's on you. I'm not the actual lead of any.
Right, Michael. And I don't think we have Michael here to agree. So.
But I could certainly volunteer and then go convince Mike to show up as well.
Okay. And the next meeting is, what date is that? 2 weeks from today? Can somebody help me with that?
Yeah, let's see.
March.
It's going to be the 9th, March 9th.
Okay. Okay. And so then the other three, okay, so those are going to be the digital and the last one is the security tooling. And the 2 weeks out from the 9th is 9 plus 14. Oops. The 23rd.
23, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
And we want to have those be reviews and votes on the same day, right?
Yeah, we should just get through this process and, and finally check this off.
Just in terms of planning, in the event that we don't reach a vote after the 20 minutes allocated to a certain group, are we intending to run over with that group, or are we intending to take the vote to some other mechanism?
If it's open to discussion, where I should say that there are topics still being discussed, meaning that people aren't ready to vote, then I think we need to just push it to another meeting so that we can continue the conversation. But if we get through and we just want time for some reason to vote, or people want to vote anonymously or something like that, then we can push to another platform. But I think for discussions, we should continue them until people feel comfortable and issues have been resolved. Like, because I think that if there's a conversation going on basically where we've got a conflict between two groups, we should probably try to resolve that instead of just holding a vote.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, sorry, Kate.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to ask, do we want to cap discussions at 20 minutes? So if, and then if, in order for all three, I'm just thinking respect for people's time. Do we want to cap discussions at 20 minutes for any one individual group, and then call that group back for another meeting if the discussion goes outside of 20 minutes?
I think that's reasonable, given that we're inviting people to come in and, yeah, like I said, being respectful of their time, just because, yeah, I would hate to invite two other working groups and then have one just dominate the entire meeting and then they're just kind of sitting there,
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's a good plan.
Can we go back to, so there was something we said just now that makes me think we might want to update something about our quarterly, I'm going to call it our town hall, because the town hall is the culminating event. So I think what we said, what I was hearing, but it's not what I had written. So I had written working group and TAC provide content for newsletter 1 week ahead of newsletter. Maybe it's just that there's one thing ahead of that, which is WG quarterly updates to TAC. And that's going to be the TAC meeting ahead. I think what this is going to be is TAC meeting. It's the final TAC meeting of the quarter.
Yeah, there's an interesting timing thing here. So depending on what we meant, yeah, we want to do this for sure. I agree with that. But then the next two items that you've got on there is that the working group and TAC provide content for the newsletter a week before the newsletter. Totally cool. But then the next item I think is interesting. Like, so then we're going to review in the same week?
No, it's going to be the week between when the content's provided and when the newsletter goes out. So,
So
okay.
the other one should be 2 weeks ahead. The providing content should be 2 weeks ahead, and then the review is the next week. Or am I reading that right?
Friday. Yeah. So let's say the newsletter generally goes out on a Thursday, and if we, I'm just going to look at a calendar. This will help me think. So let's look at April. So let's say the newsletter goes out on for 29. Let's make it be last Thursday of quarter. So April 29. And then the content would be due to the we'll call it to the planning committee, because they're the ones that pull it together today. That might change and be a different committee in the future, but we'll say planning committee content. So that would be in April. It would be April 16th. So that means we have a full week. That would be Friday, 16th, April 16th. And then the working groups TAC, it's really TAC, and in this case, it's really the planning. Review content, and that's, yeah, so that's,
So yeah,
newsletter.
this makes sense. Yeah. So
Does it make sense? Yeah.
yeah. So we got the content being provided by one date, and then they've got a week to do the review, and then it gets published out. Yeah.
Right.
That makes sense.
So that would be week of April 19th. All right. So then the last question was, what do we want that schedule to be for the TAC meeting?
For the working groups to provide the updates?
Yeah. So I think it should be ahead of this Friday, Friday the 16th, the deadline. The working groups are every 2 weeks. So I guess we'll just say TAC meeting.
I'd say, yeah, the
TAC meeting.
prior to the, whatever the schedule ends up being. The TAC
Right.
meeting prior to
To
going out.
when
Which hopefully
content due.
yeah, those things don't get out of sync, but yeah, I think that's that's what we should strive for.
Right, a content due date. Okay. I'm sure I can spend a few minutes on this and come up with some labels for each of these
Yeah.
milestones, and then it will read better. But I'll work on that and maybe bring it back for this group
No, I
in
think
our next meeting.
yeah, the gist of it's good. But yeah, thank you for doing that. So I noticed real quick while we're in this section, Nick had pointed out a question for August. Was it July or August? Because July would be the quarter. But are we pushing to August due to anniversary reasons or?
No, I'm probably just calendar challenged.
Okay.
So is that right? So it'd be April. Okay, so January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Nick, for catching.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, so I think we've gotten through all of that. Any questions before we wrap that up? Okay, cool. So we've got 10 minutes left. There's two things. One I completely forgot was to do introductions of new people, because I know there's quite a few new people on the call today that I didn't notice until about halfway through this meeting. So I want to do that really quick. And then lastly, I just want to mention, I don't want to go through and do this because I know it's boring for everybody, but we do need to start working through all of the active GitHub issues. So I'm going to spend some time this week reviewing those. I'll close things out that I know can be closed and they've already been resolved. And then I'll probably be assigning some to folks as well that need updates. But we should try to start making some progress through those. So if people have time, please take a look at those and close out anything that you think has been resolved, and prop up anything you think might need to be active. But I don't want to spend the next 10 minutes just going through all of those things together. That's a little tedious, but so with that, let's do some quick intros. I'm just going to rattle off the people that I don't recognize, but that I think are new. So Nick, do you want to start off? Because actually, I don't believe, is this your first meeting?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, hi, Nick Osmore. I do product security at Veracode, so I know we're a vendor, but I'm on the securing our own stuff side, not necessarily selling things. But I've been doing product security for a number of years here at Veracode and at RCMC before that. I've been part of SafeCode, working on a few documents over the years.
Very cool. Well, welcome, and I'm glad to have you here. And have you participated in any of the other OpenSSF working groups, or are you just getting started?
Yeah, no, as part of SafeCode, someone mentioned your town hall last week. So one of our working group meetings. So I joined yesterday and just looked at the calendar and blocked off some time to join some of the meetings over the next couple of weeks, just to see what you guys have going on and see how I can help.
Very cool. All right. Well, again, welcome.
Thanks.
Let's see, who else is, okay, I think you added Nick twice. He was already on there.
Oh, was he there? Okay.
Yeah, he's a
All
few
right.
up. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see, who else is new? Matt, I recognize your name. I think you've been here before, right?
No, I've been attending work groups here and there, trying to figure out where I fit and arrange my schedule. But I work in the open source group and IBM, working on various projects. I'm most interested in securing our tool chains, our pipelines. And so I've been attending the tools working group. But since Phil, my good friend Phil Estes, switched affiliations recently, I was asked to start paying attention to this group by my colleague Chris Ferris.
Oh, great.
Okay, very cool. So we've still got Phil and we've got a replacement for Phil, so that's great.
I cannot replace Phil.
Well, we're glad to have you as well. Is that everybody? Because as I'm clearly recognizing names, but from other meetings. So anybody else that's new to this particular meeting that I'm not catching? Nope, everybody. Cool. All right. Well, does anybody have any topics that they want to cover in the next 5 minutes? Otherwise, I will gift you 5 minutes of your day back.
Maybe I should just mention, so one thing that I had said that I would work on is a 2021 roadmap, technical roadmap. And I have to apologize. I told Ryan this yesterday, but I have not made any progress on that. I've been kind of swamped with some other things the last 2 weeks. So apologies there. It's still something that's very important and on my mind, but I just haven't gotten to it. So.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. I know it's seems like everybody's been busy the past 2 weeks. I don't know what happened, but
Or dealing with power issues here in Texas.
well, yeah, there's that. We had a little bit of that here in the Northwest as well, but not to the extreme that you guys have had it, thankfully. But yeah, everything getting turned back on over there. You guys doing okay?
IBM actually passed out water yesterday in the parking lot.
Hey.
That's the biggest concern now is getting potable water. So yeah.
Oh, jeez. Wow. Well, yeah, hopefully that works out for you guys. Yikes. All right. Well, on that happy note, like I said, I will get the markdown file for the process that we talked about earlier done today, and then we'll be looking at those open issues, and if other people can take a look as well, and then we'll get the invite sent out for the upcoming meetings for the working group leads to attend, and then we will see you all in 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.